10 players you need to know who have the hardest possible fantasy football playoff schedule. We'll be updating this list one more time before your trade deadline, so make sure you're following. First player with an extremely difficult playoff schedule is Dak Prescott. First week, he plays the Vikings, then the Chargers, two of the toughest possible matchups, but if you can make it to the championship, he has a friendly matchup against the Commanders. Honestly, a little more difficult is Patrick Mahomes, who also plays the Chargers in week 15, then plays the Titans, and then unfortunately plays the Denver Broncos in the championship. Facing Cleveland, Green Bay, and San Francisco, DeAndre Swift has turned it up lately, but he does have a difficult playoff schedule. We're already fully panicking on Kenneth Walker. He's got one of the toughest fantasy football playoff schedules, facing the Colts, the Rams, and the Panthers. This may be your sign to sell Kyren Williams at your next opportunity, because he plays the Colts, the Seahawks, in an extremely difficult matchup in the championship against the Falcons. Matthew Golden and your Packers wide receivers, they drew the very difficult Denver matchup in the first round of fantasy football playoffs, but if you can survive that, it gets a little bit easier against Chicago than Baltimore. We got one receiver with an even more difficult schedule, but Rashee Rice faces the Chargers, the Titans, then Pat Surtain and the Broncos in the championship. Before we get to the two amazing tight ends with amazingly difficult schedules, Brian Thomas Jr. has it the worst of the wide receivers, facing Sauce Gardner in week 15, Pat Surtain in week 16, and a Colts defense in the championship who's been great at taking away the wide receiver one. Brock Bowers has had a rough year, and it doesn't get easier in the playoffs, facing the Eagles, Texans, and Giants, who have been solid against wide receivers. Not trading him away, but unfortunate that Trey McBride faces Houston, Atlanta, and Cincinnati in the playoffs.